Enjoy all episodes of the RCWR Show on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio.
Catch the RCWR Show with Lee Sanders every Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, only on Spreaker.com. Covering all things WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, Global Force Wrestling, Paragon Pro Wrestling, any and all things wrestling and beyond, as well as an occasional appearance by some kick-ass awesome guests. 10 p.m. Eastern, only on Spreaker.com. Hey, if you can't catch our shows live, you can scoop it up on demand on great platforms such as Spreaker, iTunes, Mixlr, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and on YouTube. Just use the keywords, The RCWR Show. Tonight's edition of The RCWR Show with Lee Sanders is brought to you by FreeStream. Everybody, how would you like to cut your cable or satellite TV bill down to zero? Well, you can with FreeStream. Why FreeStream? FreeStream is capable of streaming entertainment from around the world, including live TV, music, gaming, and the latest movies, you name it. FreeStream offers over 100,000 titles of movies for you to stream anytime you want, day or night. That's 24/7. Current movies can stream right from your box in HD quality at the highest resolution that's available. Hey, are you a sports fan? Watch any sports event live from anywhere in the world in the highest quality, streamed live right to your television. If you miss any live programs or new episodes, you can stream them from start to finish with FreeStream at your convenience. There's over 1,000 TV channels, everything from local to premium channels, all available through FreeStream. And the best part, folks, the best part about FreeStream, it's legal to stream programming/content. It's only illegal to download or change the content. So with that in mind, are you ready to cut your cable or satellite bill to zero? Then head on over to www.cutyourcable.biz. That's www.cutyourcable.biz. www.cutyourcable.biz.
Yo, it's your boy JTG, aka the author of Damn Why'd I Write This Book, and you are listening to RCWR Show. Yo!
Warning, the RCWR Show with Lee Sanders is intended for a mature audience only. The following is an Infinity One Productions presentation, keeping it honest, insightful, and interactive. Covering the latest in wrestling, entertainment, and beyond. Since 2011, you're listening to the RCWR Show. Now, your host, live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., Lee Sanders.
Oh yeah, and what is going on, boys and girls? It's the one and only, the Black Avenger, aka the Black Azrael, Lee Sanders. Pleased to meet you, nice to know me, for this Sunday, July 10th, 2016. Here we are, we're almost like halfway done with the month of July. I mean, that's just insane. I could have sworn that July, I know, when you say, you go back to last week, yeah, July kind of technically kicked off last week, but I don't know. I swear to you guys, I swear that it just seems like sometimes just with the blink of an eye, it seems like time just flies by. It's just really insane. So I'm on here doing a special edition of the RCWR Show for you guys, as I'm going to be talking about UFC 200 Fallout. And, you know, I wanted to talk about UFC 200 Fallout for a couple of reasons. Why? Well, cause pretty much I can. So, but no, seriously, in case you guys had missed it, I was a special guest. I was the third man on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Late last night, beginning of Sunday morning, basically, I was with my good friend Raj Guri, who is the owner of WrestlingInc.com. And also one of the main writers, David Bixben, I believe is his name. He's got a wicked cool last name too, because every time I read that name, I just keep wanting to say Bixby. And anybody that remembers the 1970s Hulk series, you had that great actor in Bill Bixby. So every time I see David's name, I keep just wanting to think Bixby and not Bixben or however. It's a weird, funny last name, and I'll definitely give him the proper nod before I end the show. But anyway, I had kicked on back, and I had did my thing with them. And you know how it is when you're a guest on somebody else's show, and in this case, I really wasn't sure what I was getting myself into. I had already let it be known before joining those guys that I was very limited as far as my knowledge of the UFC product, and that I could only really talk about UFC from just the casual fan perspective, because I'm not shelling out the $50, $60, $70 every single week to check it out. Now, I know there's a lot of you guys that's out there, and shout out to those of you that had hit me up throughout social media over the weekend when I had told you all about the hefty price tag that was floating around for UFC 200. You all were like, wow, that is like a lot. Well, why not check this instead? And couple of applications was pitched to me. Some of them I had checked out, and it seemed a little bit promising, but it was kind of like, I'm just, even if you give me the technology and all that, it's just a matter of, will I actually sit down and devote the time to check whatever it is that, like, maybe you would like for me to check out, or maybe that's going to have a lot of people talking, and it's kind of like a touch and go. But I definitely had wanted to see UFC 200 for one reason only. I wanted to see the return of my man, the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar. So I had a lot of fun working with those guys on the Wrestling Inc. podcast, and I do recommend you all check it out, because David and Raj, they pretty much complement what I'm getting ready to lay down here to you guys. Now look, I'm no Joe Rogan, I'm no Mike Goldberg, I'm no Mauro Ranallo. So for those of you that's really expecting me to get all nitty gritty, all in depth and all that, like I said, I'm only going to be able to come at this from a casual fan perspective, and who knows, maybe with some of the things that I say on this broadcast, maybe it'll entice you, maybe make you want to try to go out of your way to check out UFC 200, be it you order from your respected cable satellite provider, or maybe you get with a couple of friends and you go see it at somebody's house, or you go to a bar. However you do it, maybe with what I get ready to say will entice you afterwards to go try to check it out. I do feel that, yes, in a nutshell, you should go out of your way to check it out. So, but yeah, I felt a little bit restricted when I was doing my thing over with the Wrestling Inc. guys, and they're good guys, don't get me wrong, they're really good people, but you know how it is, you don't want to step on anybody else's toes and all that, so I had to make sure that I kept myself a little bit restricted on some of the things that I wanted to say, in hopes that we didn't like go into serious overtime, and we actually did end up going into overtime, but I was still pretty quiet, pretty reserved. So here, I just get to be all balls out. I get to throw a little bit of F-bombs in there as well. So without any further ado, Brock Lesnar, after last being in the UFC octagon in 2011, here he is, basically almost 5 years later, steps in there. And I don't think, like, seriously, did anybody doubt that he was going to go into this UFC fight and lose? Did anybody seriously doubt that? Because if you did doubt Brock Lesnar, let me tell you, you must not truly be a fan of Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar went into this fight against Mark Hunt, baddest fucking Samoan that's out there as far as MMA fighting goes. I've seen a lot of his footage online in his fights, a lot of his knockouts. He is one nasty fighter. He packs a lot of power in those punches, man. I mean, my God, all he needs is just one good wham. I mean, I would imagine it's probably like getting hit by a damn elephant or mauled by a bear the way he hits you. But a notorious reputation. This was a great matchup on paper. This was a really great test for Brock Lesnar. And as far as the mentality of Mark Hunt going into this match, he pretty much said, look, I'm familiar with Brock Lesnar, his style and all that. Honestly, if Brock Lesnar doesn't take me down, if he doesn't knock me out, doesn't make me submit in the first round, honestly, I think I got this guy. Now, shout out to those of you that were interacting with me during UFC 200. Appreciate it. There was a lot of great interactions. I don't know, man. The interactions that I had with y'all during UFC, it's kind of like, if that's how it normally is for a UFC event, UFC weekend, I don't know. Maybe I will kick on back from time to time and check out some more UFC events. We'll see how it goes. One thing at a time. But I looked at this match and I don't know how like the stats broke down, like if UFC had released those yet, but I'm just sitting at home watching this entire event with my girl, and I'm just like with a pen and paper, I'm just going old school. I'm just making note of like how many strikes I see, how many takedowns and all that. So my numbers probably are off by a bit, but I tell you, in the first round, Lesnar came in with 3 takedowns. He had a total of about 22 strikes. Again, this is what I'm counting. Versus Mark Hunt, who only had about 3 strikes. And so the way I scored that first round, I looked at that, I'm saying, nah, that's probably maybe 10-9. Possibly, yeah, maybe 10-9 for that first round. But, I mean, Lesnar, in my eyes, he dominated. He dominated very well. And, of course, after he did those takedowns, those strikes, I mean, he just kept going to the head. He kept going to the side of the body of Hunt. I'm like, man, if Hunt doesn't let up, if he doesn't try to reverse this or come to his feet, this could be over. But first round was over. You're going, okay. Here we go. Brock Lesnar got officially now the butterflies out of his system. And you can kind of tell, like in those first 2 minutes, that they were really filling each other out, especially Lesnar. Lesnar was really filling Mark Hunt out, really testing the waters. Looked to be in great, phenomenal shape too, mind you. Great freaking shape. Best shape I have seen him in to date. I mean, he almost picked up where he left off when he first came to the UFC the first go round, before he had got hit with the diverticulitis. Hopefully I pronounced that right, because that is a damn tongue twister. But that's how I scored the first round. Now we go on to the second round. I actually had Hunt winning that round, as he had about 8 well-connected strikes to Lesnar's 3. I mean, I really didn't see that much in the second round, quite honestly. I had that one pretty much going at this point 20-29, still pretty much in favor of Brock Lesnar. The third round, in my honest opinion, and I think anybody that saw this UFC event would be in total agreement. I think we all are together in unison, in harmony, when I say that in the third round, Lesnar just owned Hunt. I mean, I don't know if they released the official stats yet as far as the strikes, how many blows went to the head, all that on the UFC site. Very new to all this, but I promise you guys, as time goes along, and most importantly, you appreciate the way I am talking about UFC, with a couple of minor tweaks here and there as far as improvements go. Who knows, maybe we can make this be somewhat of a semi-regular thing, but we'll see how this plays out. But in my estimation, from what I counted in the third round, I had Brock Lesnar come in with 1 takedown, 63 strikes. I had Hunt connecting with a little bit close to 14, but Lesnar just dominating. Again, strikes to the head. At one point, many points during this third round, when Lesnar was on top of Hunt, I couldn't help but go, my God, can Hunt put up any type of a defense, because he just keeps taking these blows to the head. And I was really ready for the referee to just jump in there and kind of go, okay, look, you got to come up with the defense. If you don't come in with the defense, I'm going to stop this match. And we didn't see that come about, unfortunately. But there was, just when you thought the ref was maybe going to call the match, there was actually just at the last second, just a little bit of enough offense/defense from Mark Hunt to try to counter Lesnar. But yeah, man, 1 takedown from Lesnar, 63 strikes to Hunt. The way I pretty much had scored this one, I pretty much averaged it out 30 to 26 as the final decision. And the final decision, one thing was for certain, we all could be in agreement on this one as well, on this assessment, which was after watching all of these 3 rounds, it was pretty much unanimous that Brock Lesnar was going to get the victory by decision. And he did get it by decision, as it was unanimous. The judges had basically scored it 29-27, 29-27, 29-27. So that was your final. Great matchup right there. There was only 3 5-minute rounds. I was under the impression that there was going to be 5 5-minute rounds, but hey, 3 rounds, I was totally okay with that. Brock Lesnar giving a really awesome victory speech afterwards. It was very un-Brock Lesnar-like, because we've heard the stories in the past of Brock Lesnar who really does not want to pose for photographs, doesn't want you coming up to him and telling him how much of a big fan you are and all that, because when you see him and he's not in the ring, or he's not in the octagon, or basically he's not performing in front of the cameras, he wants to be left alone, because you are invading his private area. You are interfering in his circle. Leave him the hell alone. This guy just wants to kick back. He wants to enjoy his private life with his kids, with his beautiful wife, Sable. Enough said. A lot of interesting, fun stories we've heard about Brock Lesnar over the years, but we saw a Brock Lesnar that really wore his heart out there. He really put it out there during his post-victory speech, basically saying, from sea to shiny sea, from one white boy to all nationalities that's out there, can we all please come together? And it was really nice, strong, powerful words that he had said. And I'm glad that Brock Lesnar has said that, because one thing that was somewhat alarming to me up until that point was the fact that, and look, I get it. I get that we all do not watch UFC to hear, oh, wonder how they're going to go about bringing up what happened in Florida with the Pulse shootings and all that. But when you think about the 2 respected shootings/killings that went down with those 2 young black men earlier this week, it's just one of those eye-opening, wow, we as a nation, we like really need to come together. Like, what the hell is going on here? And everybody's trying to make it be a race thing, and I don't want to dive all into that because that's an entirely different topic for another show, which I will talk about at great length coming up this Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern on Spreaker.com. But it was really nice to see Brock Lesnar say that, because I was wondering, like, leading up to when this event was going to be over, okay, nobody has said anything about the recent shootings. Is somebody going to go there? And for it to be Brock Lesnar, and then just kind of looking back on it in hindsight, it's kind of like, who better than Brock Lesnar to say that? So I thought that was really classy. I also appreciated the fact that he gave that nod there to the men in uniform, the men in blue and all that. Great nod that he did. Very un-Brock Lesnar characteristic like, but you could tell, as even though there was only 3 rounds, you could tell that after the first 2 minutes in the first round, he was starting to get very comfortable. He was starting to find his groove, and he just seemed very loose. He just seemed very jubilant. He just seemed very... He not only jubilant, but he seemed very rejuvenated. It was like the fountain of youth had found him, and he just went 5-10 years younger almost. And to just see the big grin on his face from ear to ear, basically, good feeling. I tell you what, I've been watching Brock Lesnar ever since he made his WWE debut. So for you wrestling fans that's out there, we're basically talking 2002 that I've been watching him, and I've followed his career from when he left the WWE and he went and tried out for the NFL, made it on the Minnesota Vikings team, didn't make it to the first string as he pretty much had got eliminated during training camp and all that, but that's still a great testament to the type of character that Brock Lesnar is, which I'll touch upon more in a few seconds. But from there, he goes to New Japan Pro Wrestling, does a couple of fights there for a couple of years, battling the WWE lawsuit that's going on at the time because he was in breach, and it pretty much had boiled down to him trying to continue to bring in some type of revenue to support himself and his family. He then goes into MMA, goes to UFC, and back to the WWE. So, long history I have had in watching the career of Brock Lesnar. And the one thing that I want to stress with regards to Lesnar, for anybody that ever doubted that Brock Lesnar was not going to get the job done at UFC 200, you don't know jack about Brock Lesnar, because everything that I just laid out about Lesnar, and maybe some sports MMA analysis or analysts rather had covered it, but I don't know anything about it. So if they did mention this next part, kudos to them. But Brock Lesnar has always struck me as the type of individual that when he has his heart and his mind set out to do something, he's gonna see it through no matter what. If that means he fails, then he fails. He dusts himself off, try again. And if he fails again, maybe he gives it one last hoorah. And then up to that point, he probably decides, well, what's next? What's the next endeavor to embark on? But he's always struck me as that type of individual when his mind and his heart is set out to do something, when he is focused on something, he sees that bad boy through. So for me, I felt that Brock Lesnar didn't have anything to lose with regards to this match. And I love the fact that all the interviews that he was giving, and they're like, why are you doing this again? The fans are going to be excited to see you back. He's pretty much going, hey, look, if the fans appreciate the fact that I'm back, that's great. Honestly, I could care less. This isn't about the fans. This isn't about UFC. This isn't about WWE. This is about me. And I get that. I mean, how many of us have, like, in our respective lives, not been in that type of a position where we're kind of going, man, I wonder what would have happened had I gone this route instead of this route? What would have happened if I would have gone in this direction instead of? And it's kind of like one of those what if, like the Creed song, right? So it's kind of like, well, if you're able to address that what if, then tackle it. How are you going to know unless you try? And so people need to understand that Brock Lesnar didn't walk away from the UFC just for the hell of it. I think we really need to stress that. He walked away because of the diverticulitis. I mean, the guy dropped like 40 freaking pounds. I mean, he almost damn near died as a result of that condition, if I'm not mistaken. So for him to just focus on trying to get his health back up there, get himself back up to 100%, and he was really starting to look like the Brock Lesnar of old when he came back to the WWE this next go round. To see him back at UFC 200, it was a great, awesome experience. Of course, the big question that's out there right now is, well, what does the future hold for Brock Lesnar? Will Brock Lesnar do more MMA fights for the UFC, or is this a scenario where Brock Lesnar is pretty much one and done? Brock Lesnar has pretty much said he just wants to focus on the moment right now, soak it in for all that it's worth, and maybe go from there. But I know a lot of equations with regards to that question. A lot of things factor in right now. Number one is, will Vince McMahon, Triple H, will they sign off on Brock Lesnar doing more fights? I think Dana White is all in. If there's any way possible for him to get the services of Brock Lesnar, I think Dana White, let's do it. But I think it really just comes down to Vince McMahon, Triple H, more so Vince McMahon, if he will give his blessings for Lesnar to do more fights. Now, I know the main question that a lot of people have right now is, will Brock Lesnar do more fights? Should he do more fights? Or honestly, you look at Brock Lesnar in that UFC 200 return, and he looked so at ease. He just had more personality, more energy just coming out of him. He just seemed like he was having fun out there. As opposed to the WWE, it just really looks like, how can I put this? He just really looks somewhat shackled, quite honestly. Okay, I'm coming out here, I'm doing this, okay, we're done, alright, what's next? He's just coming there to do a job, and I'm not really picking up the vibe that he's looking at UFC as a job. I think when you get down to the nitty and the gritty, I think his heart is in the place of MMA. And if WWE is very smart right now, they will capitalize on this great buzz that Lesnar was able to obtain for his UFC victory, and they will use that to their advantage, and they will try to work with him. I think if they go in the direction of what had went down with Bobby Lashley in TNA Wrestling, as many of you all know, he's been a multiple-time TNA World Heavyweight Champion, but on the side, he still very actively pursues MMA, does a few things with Bellator from time to time mainly, but if they were to kind of go in that direction, I think if it's a situation where Brock Lesnar kind of builds up that resume, takes on some really good, solid opponents, and has enough time to try to heal up before he needs to be utilized by WWE again for their next live event, pay-per-view, etc., then yeah, as long as you can set it up in a way where it's a win-win situation for everybody involved, I don't see why Brock Lesnar would not be able to return to the UFC octagon. I think the only thing that will derail any future Brock Lesnar UFC involvement at this point is Vince McMahon. That's pretty much it. Us fans, we can be vocal all we want, but when it's all said and done, it's pretty much Vince's call. So I tell you this much, WWE, they got their damn money's worth, and I got to give a shout out to my old broadcast partner and good buddy, the evil genius of professional wrestling, Titus Machiavelli. He called it. He freaking called it. We were talking about the ad advertising and all that for WWE UFC, and I basically was like, dude, don't you think it's kind of weird that WWE isn't showing Brock Lesnar any type of love for his appearance at UFC? And Titus was like, honestly, they really don't need to do that, because when it's all said and done, he's Brock Lesnar. UFC is going to be able to drop the WWE X amount of times. His whole thing was just kick back. WWE, they're going to get their money's worth. Just watch. And sure enough, he was right, because we saw not one, but two placements for Brock Lesnar being on the front cover of WWE 2K17. We saw the commercials during the UFC pay-per-view. That aired twice. And then we actually saw Mike Goldberg mention Brock Lesnar's opponent for SummerSlam, that being Randy Orton. So technically WWE got their wish right there, because if anybody remembers, at one point WWE actually had tried to pursue Mike Goldberg to be a commentator at the announce booth and all that. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. Now, when I say unfortunately for WWE fans, but it was very fortunate for the UFC MMA fans that Mike Goldberg was going to continue on. It was a real tough decision. I don't know how many of you guys recall that, but I remember Mike Goldberg had talked about it in an interview, and he said he was really close to signing and finalizing a deal with the WWE. The negotiations, it had went very well, but it just pretty much had came down to talking with his friends and his family and just really doing a lot of soul searching. And he admitted that it was a great job to try to do, somewhat of a dream job, but that his heart was still with the UFC. It pretty much just boiled down to loyalty, and probably in the back of his head just really thinking about how he was gonna really be properly utilized, if he was really gonna be able to go all out there like he has been doing for the UFC for all of these years now. So little fun trivia for you guys that maybe forgot about that, maybe didn't even know about that. But yeah, they came very close to acquiring his services. So I just thought it was kind of nice to kind of get just a little bit of a taste of how it would be if Mike Goldberg was plugging something WWE related or just talking WWE. And it came out of his mouth pretty damn well, I gotta admit, quite honestly. But yeah, Brock Lesnar, dominating victory. I don't think there's anything more to say with regards to Brock Lesnar and his match against Mark Hunt, right? I mean, if anything, who could he possibly take on next? I mean, just looking at the current UFC fighter rankings for the heavyweight division, I don't know, guys. I don't know. I'm just looking at it right now, and Cain Velasquez, he kind of seems like, personally, I'd love to see the rematch there with Alistair Overeem. I wouldn't mind seeing that rematch there. But those are the two that I'm really, or maybe Junior Dos Santos. Maybe those three respectively, not really sure, but I think any one of those three would be a really solid matchup. Quite honestly, if I had to pick a specific order, I'd like to go Kane, then Dos Santos, and then follow it up with Wolverine. But time will tell. Let's just soak in everything that's come about right now. Now, of course, for you wrestling fans, well, what happens with Brock Lesnar next? Because you know I gotta kind of go the wrestling route, since a majority of our longtime listeners are very familiar with the wrestling from what we talk about on Tuesdays, 10 p.m. Eastern on Spreaker.com, and also for every WWE pay-per-view that airs on Sundays. With regards to what happens with Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, honestly, I polled you guys a couple of days ago, and I had said to you all straight up, what is your thoughts on Brock Lesnar's SummerSlam opponent being Randy Orton? Now, you actually still have time to go back and cast your vote if you did not see that poll just yet. I'm actually on Facebook right now because I had shared the link that way, and I'm just trying to pull up the results here. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say that at the time it was pretty much 65% of the votes in favor of Randy Orton being Brock Lesnar's opponent, and I was quite surprised by that, quite honestly. But then I kind of thought about it a little bit more, and I said, well, you know what, it has potential, and I had talked about it on the podcast earlier this week, in which I had said that it doesn't scream WWE, take my money, but if you do it in a way where storyline wise it makes a lot of sense, and there's a very simplistic storyline that's there. You can pretty much just go, hey, look, Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar, they were part of the same OVW class, right along with John Cena, Dave Bautista, Shelton Benjamin, just to name a few. And you see that awesome class from OVW that pretty much came up the WWE roster at the same time, the main WWE roster at the same time. You're like, God damn, you know, that's just insane. These two guys only faced each other once, and that was back in 2002 for the WWE title, which, if I'm not mistaken, Brock Lesnar had held at the time. So, you know, factoring that and just looking at their history in OVW, technically you could kind of go about this match and say, hey, this is the first time that these two are taking each other on. Smarter fans will know that's BS, but if you want to spin it that way, you can spin it that way. 61% of you had thought that it was an awesome choice. 15% of you was expecting anyone else but Randy Orton. And a tie for 12%. As on the one hand, 12% of you was expecting Rock or Kurt Angle. I don't really think we need to dive into more details about that, respectively, yeah. And then the other 12% just disappointed that Brock Lesnar is going to be facing Randy Orton. So, you know, you just look at all that, and like I said, there's enough of a decent storyline there where you can have Randy and Brock kind of address that age-old question, like, hey, you and me came up from the same OVW class, and like somehow like we continue to escape each other in our respective careers. There's enough there. A very simple storyline that folks can get into. Will folks be able to get into it? Again, it all just depends on the build-up. But you cannot have Randy Orton take all these serious bumps. He's just coming back. He's been dealing with nagging injuries off and on for the past couple of years now. You can't take You can have Randy Orton do a whole bunch of German suplexes, things of that nature. So it's got to be some type of a gimmick match. And I know we had some listeners say, oh, well, Brock Lesnar had already did this and Brock Lesnar had already did that. Yeah, but when you really think about it, just think about Brock Lesnar's tenure in the WWE this go round. Majority of his matches have been gimmick matches. He's never done a straight up wrestling match. So no matter how you got to spin it, I don't care if you do Brooklyn, New York Brawl or whatever, Brooklyn Brawl, however you got to spin it, you got to do some type of a gimmick match, mainly to try to protect Randy Orton so he doesn't take a significant number of bumps. His presence is greatly going to be needed and is going to be greatly appreciated when it comes to live events, house shows, pay-per-views, ticket sales at the gates and all of that. So you need all the help that you can get right now, especially with the attendance numbers being as low as it is. Now, following this UFC 200 victory, like, what's next for Brock Lesnar? Like, should he really be in this type of a caliber match with Randy Orton at SummerSlam? I think they need to do a little bit of tweaking, quite honestly. I wouldn't be surprised if they stuck with Lesnar, Orton, but if it was me, I'd tweak it. I know, Kurt Angle, WWE, it's probably not going to happen. If anything, a Hall of Fame spot, maybe a WrestleMania proper send-off, that's pretty much it. But if it was an alternate universe where things just make sense, Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, or Brock Lesnar, The Rock. I know The Rock's busy with Hollywood, but money talks, especially when you're willing to offer a lot of money and the creative process is there. Oh my God, I'm sure under the right circumstances, Rock would jump on it, but it is what it is. Moving along, let's briefly talk about the rest of the UFC 200 card. I unfortunately did not get a chance to check out the preliminary card through UFC Fight Pass, but in the lightweight division, you had Joe Lauzon defeat Diego Sanchez, knockout in the first round at a minute 26. In the middleweight, you had Gregor Mazura defeat Diego Santos, knockout TKO. That was in the first round. After 4 minutes, what's that, 32 seconds? It looks like it was clocked in. Lightweight, you had Jim Miller defeat Takanori Gomai. That was in the first round. Time, 2 minutes, 18 seconds. For your preliminary card on Fox Sports 1, these I did end up seeing. We have for the lightweight, Sage Northcutt defeat Enrique Marin. This was a unanimous decision too. The judges pretty much scored it 29-28, straight across in favor of Sage Northcutt. Young man has a very bright career ahead of himself. I must say, only 20 years of age. And I tell you what, it was my first time watching him, and I was just really impressed. I couldn't believe that he was 20 because the way that he was just adjusting himself, because there was a few times there where Marin had him in a couple of really good takedown submission moves, and you're kind of like, oh, it's over, because twice Marin had Sage in an armbar lock, and you're like, ooh, he's putting a little bit of torque on that. He's putting some muster on that. Yeah, he's not gonna make it. And somehow he was able to get out of the moves. I was amazed. I mean, he was just the way that he displayed on offense, but definitely on the defense, because defense is where Sage Northcutt really shined. He just seemed like he was just light years ahead of his time. Could have fooled me. The way he performed, I was under the impression that maybe he had been doing MMA for like about maybe 4 or 5 years or something like that. But he had a very impressive outing. Marin just really kind of looked, I'll say this, in the first round, I'd say like in the first maybe 2, almost 3 minutes, Marin kind of looked like, okay, he's going in here, he's holding his own, he looks like he's going to be able to get over this young rookie, this young wet behind the ears kid. But then it just seemed like as time progressed into the later rounds, like I said, there was a couple of opportunities there where he should have had the win, and it slipped through his fingertips, literally. For the bantamweight, TJ Dillashaw had defeated Rafael Assunção. This was a unanimous decision. All 3 judges had scored it 30-27, right on across. Oh my God, where do I begin with this matchup right here? Let me first say this. Assunção, dude was on some serious defense, let me tell you, because when I was watching TJ Dillashaw, the way he just kept jumping out there, TJ was just basically doing like a lot of bouncing. He was doing a lot of moving around, and it was kind of like, dude, would you just like stay still already? But TJ just kept bouncing around. A lot of energy. I mean, he seemed really, really amped up, very antsy. I was just kind of like watching him kind of going, okay, would he kind of like just calm down a little bit and really find his time and, make those strikes connect? And he was doing a lot of strikes. He was doing more strikes than Assunção, because for me, the one problem that I had with Assunção was the fact that he was just mainly in a stance. He was moving, don't get me wrong, he was definitely moving and he was on the defense, but like he wasn't like being more aggressive, and he wasn't going in on the offense. It was mainly just, okay, let me see what you got. How you gonna come at me? And I don't know if his mentality per his training camp was basically kind of telling him, look for your opening and then automatically counter right back. I don't know if maybe they were kind of instructing him that way, but for a majority of this match, Rafael Assunção was just pretty much doing defense. And just like, to me, in my eyes, there were opportunities where TJ was open and Rafael could have just like went in there, and he didn't. And it just kind of left me scratching my head a little bit. I dare not say Rafael was intimidated. Wasn't picking up that vibe at all. It didn't seem like a mismatch at all. It felt like a really damn good, even matchup, but the edge went more in TJ's favor as a result of TJ just really being more on the offense. There really wasn't any devastating blows that TJ did to Assunção. None whatsoever. It was just pretty much all about the strikes, the timing of those well-placed strikes. I barely don't even recall any takedowns in that matchup. I could be wrong, but I really don't even remember any takedowns in that matchup. Alright, so let's talk about our next matchup that had came about from UFC 200. I believe, I'm just looking at the current card here, what matchup had came about next here. From that matchup, we now go to featherweight. We had Jose Aldo take on Frankie Edgar. Yeah, I really had enjoyed this matchup right here. Let me tell you guys, I really enjoyed this. Jose Aldo, defeated Frankie Edgar by unanimous decision. It was 49-46, 49-46, 48-47, and this was the featherweight class that was going about right here. I love this one. This was really good. Frankie Edgar, Frankie came out off the break, and it was kind of like what I just described with the last match. Frankie really came out of this one, and he was constantly pouncing. He was constantly jumping around, bouncing to the left, bouncing to the right, just bouncing up and down. And Aldo is just like really trying to you could tell he was taken off by Frankie Edgar, because he's in this position where he's like, okay, how is this guy gonna try to come at me? But I tell you what, almost every single time that Edgar put a punch out there, put a kick out there, Aldo, with a little bit more reach than Edgar, was able to just counter it with ease. He was just able to avoid it. And so what might have looked like, oh, Edgar did a nice connect, Aldo just spotted it very well. And I tell you what, for me in the first round, I felt Aldo looked very strong. It just seemed like he connected more with his strikes to Edgar as opposed to vice versa. I had the second round as a tie, despite how the judges had ruled it. But in the third round, I definitely had it be Aldo, because Aldo, it just seemed like almost until the final minute and a quarter for the first round, it just really kind of seemed like he was in a position where he was trying to figure out how Edgar was going to be coming at him. And then once he kind of got Frankie Edgar's rhythm, that's when it started to go, okay, let me see if I can kind of... But remember, this was... what was this? This was five-minute rounds, if I'm not mistaken. So I had the first round going to Aldo. I felt that the second and the third round was a tie, and I felt that round 4 and 5 went to Aldo. But again, the judges, they scored it a unanimous decision, 49-46, 49-46, 48-47 is how they were looking at it pretty much for the most part there. Next matchup we go. Women's bantamweight. We had Juliana Pena take on Kat Zingano. This one, it was a unanimous decision. Juliana Pena had defeated Kat Zingano. This one, you had 3 rounds, 5 minutes. Actually, I need to make a correction if I'm not mistaken. Let me go back to that Aldo. No, I was correct. I thought that maybe the Aldo Edgar match was only 3 rounds, but I was correct. It was 5 rounds, 5 minutes. But you had Juliana Pena defeat Kat Zingano. That was 3 rounds consisting of 5 minutes. And this one, I enjoyed this one. This was a pretty decent matchup. Pena just really focused heavily on her ground game. That's pretty much what it had came down to. A lot of groundwork, strikes in between, but it was pretty much a grounded match for all the rounds. There's really not much more to say about that. I was expecting a lot more, especially from Zingano. I had heard a lot about her. There was a few matches that I had saw of her off and on during the past several months, so I was really expecting a lot more out of this, but for what it was worth, it was fairly decent. Main card, we had Cain Vasquez defeat Travis Brown in the first round at 4 minutes 57 seconds. Knockout. Cain went into this, really surprised me. He's a cat right here. I've seen some of his stuff off and on, and he bust out a few new things from his arsenal. Had a couple of nice spinning heel kicks. I did not think. I'm pretty sure he took his opponent off with those, because he was busting out some new tricks there. Pretty much a nice squash match right there. Let's see, we already talked about Aldo and Frankie Edgar. That was the main card. For the light heavyweight, we had DC Daniel Cormier defeat Anderson Silva. Pretty much a unanimous decision. This was 3 5-minute rounds. I think everybody pretty much knew that this match was going to be DC's. I think it was just a matter of, was it going to be by split decision, or was he going to make Silva tap out? I thought DC was going to be able to either get a knockout or submit Silva, considering that Silva had took this fight with just 48 hours notice. We all know about the whole John Jones situation and all that, so there's no reason to go all into great depth on that one. But I really was under the impression that Silva was going to have a little bit of a better performance, but I know deep down, and I think we all knew that he was going to lose this one. But I tell you what, it's really a testament to his will, Anderson Silva, that is, because here he is, correct me if I'm wrong, but he had gallbladder surgery or whatever a couple of months prior, and he didn't train properly. He realizes that UFC's in a bad spot. He could use a little bit of money. He steps in. He wants to fight DC, and he does that under 48 hours notice. And the fact that in the third round, because Anderson Silva, all he needs is just that one magical hit, and it's oh no, he didn't, and it's pretty much over. I tell you what, it seemed like in the final 60 seconds, Silva was I don't know. I think if it would have went an additional 90 seconds, man, Silva could have possibly shocked the entire world with that matchup against Daniel Cormier. But it was a decent matchup, but it just seemed like majority of this fight, it was a bear was just on top of you, and you were just trying to figure out how to get from under the bear. I mean, that's pretty much my interpretation of this match in a nutshell. One more match to talk about, again, for the main card. I know we jumped around a little bit here and there, but we've pretty much covered the entire card up to this point. We had the women's bantamweight title on the line as Miesha Tate defended against Amanda Nunes. This match was over after one round, clocked in at 3 minutes 16 seconds, as Miesha Tate, she lost the women's bantamweight title. Lost it in ugly fashion too, man. Lost it in ugly fashion. I actually got to go to the stats, because I remember this was one of the last tweets that I had put out before I had went live with the boys over at Wrestling Inc. And let me see if I can actually pull that up, because I actually had kept notes of the strikes and all that. Yeah, I said, what the fuck did I just see? Nunes destroyed Tate. I counted 24 strikes, 90% all to the face, and it was followed up by a rear naked choke. New champion. I mean, Tate was bloodied up. I was like screaming to the top of my lungs when I saw this shit go down. I was like, holy shit. I'm like, man, it is on now. I'm like, what the fuck? Cause man, when Nunes came in with just that one strike, like the one quick jab to Tate's face, and Tate just seemed rocked. It was like, damn, I mean, she seemed stunned, and then she was trying to like hurry up and get back in it, but like you could just look at her legs and she kind of wobbled a little bit. And Nunes, that was her opening after that. She smelled it, she went in there, and she just kept connecting, she just kept going in there, and she would not let up. Like I said, and I'm curious to see how the actual stats have played out, and if I can get a hold of the stats, maybe we can follow up for you guys on Tuesday's RCWR show. You know, one thing about Twitter, I hate when motherfuckers be putting you on lists. Anybody else hate that shit? Like, you don't get a follow or you don't get a retweet or whatever, but like you see motherfuckers put you on like these weird ass lists. It's like, I hate that shit. Anyway, sorry. Getting off on a rant there. But no, I mean, Nunes fucking destroyed her. It just looked so one-sided. I just couldn't help but kind of go, God damn, like, was this a mismatch? Like, who else should Tate have faced? Like, and I know we got some people that's out there, they're kind of like, Nunes, yeah, she's a bad bitch, but like, as far as marketability, you know, you can't really do anything with her because her English is broken, and I think those are all just silly excuses, quite honestly, when it's all said and done. She's got a nice looking face, Amanda Nunes does. Yes, I'm giving her props. She's got a nice looking face, as far as I'm concerned. Honestly, if I'm Telemundo, if I'm Univision and all that, shit, yeah, I think it would work out very well. It would definitely work out well in the Brazilian markets and all that. Not to mention the first openly gay fighter she becomes. The first openly gay fighter to become a UFC champion. So talk about some history right here. Not to mention, we were just talking about the gay community. Just think about all the, I mean, this opens a lot of new avenues, quite honestly, from just a PR standpoint. If I'm UFC, I'm kind of going, wow, considering, and look, I don't want you guys sending me hateful emails and all that shit. I just want you all to think from a public relations standpoint. I just want you guys to think about things from a marketing standpoint when it's all said and done, and when you're trying to spread awareness about your brand and all that, about your product, about your business. If I'm UFC and I'm looking at the fact that, hey, look, we've got this nice, good-looking young girl, 28 years of age. She's from Brazil. She is our first openly gay fighter to become a UFC champion. Like I said, you'll be able to make that connect very well with the gay community, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community. Just the ads that you can do off of that alone. And then working in areas like Brazil, Mexico, El Salvador, working with those respected TV stations that's out there, especially your Telemundos, your Univisions. It's a win-win situation, honestly, that will help usher in even more of a certain demographic as far as race relations go, and all that. So I think the timing of this is awesome. I have no problem with it whatsoever. She just needs the right marketing. She needs the right PR team that can really get this up and running on all cylinders. Definitely see some decent commercial opportunities in those respected areas that I had mentioned as well. Definitely gives inspiration to young folks that maybe are continuing to struggle with their sexual identities and all that. I could see her doing like a PSA or something to that nature. Creates a whole new window of opportunity that I'm sure when it's all said and done and it's pitched to Dana White, yeah, all right, didn't think about that. Yeah, let's do it. So Miesha Tate, though, I wonder when her rematch is going to come into play. One thing is for certain, ain't going to be no Ronda Rousey for a while. They say she's going to be coming back, but the way it's looking right now, she may not be back until early 2017 as she's just off doing her thing. So, but yeah, overall for a UFC event that like I hadn't checked out in like a good period of time, because this was actually the first UFC event that I actually ordered. Any other time I'm watching it at a friend's house, or I'm watching little bits and pieces at a bar, or maybe I'm watching highlights on SportsCenter or something like that. But this was the first time I kicked back and I watched a UFC event in its entirety, and I gotta say I was quite pleased. I was very happy, thoroughly enjoyed it, to the point that I wouldn't mind off and on checking it out and maybe doing some reports here and there from time to time. So on that note, I'm gonna go on ahead and say this show is in the books. Again, for those of you, because we're going to be releasing this on multiple platforms, if you're new, welcome. If you appreciated how I approached the UFC 200 coverage, definitely would love to hear back from you. If you have a little bit of constructive criticism, tips, ways you'd like for me to try to improve my MMA coverage, you are definitely more than welcome to leave those encouraging, kind words, and I'll definitely review that feedback, and we'll try to make sure that we can together make it an even more awesome experience for everybody. I'm on Twitter at the RCWR Show. Like me, like my Facebook page, Infinity One Productions. That's with an E, spell out one, Infinity One Productions. Those of you that's patiently going to be waiting for this on the downloads, it will be available first off on Spreaker within the next 10 minutes. And it will be available on the usual platforms such as iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, the usual suspects, the usual platforms, the Google Play Music and all that good stuff. It'll be on those respected platforms. Give it about an hour or two. Of course, you can always hop on our Facebook page. We'll make sure we have all the links there. All the links you need for those respected platforms I mentioned is in this episode description. So check it out in the synopsis. Your next edition of the RCWR Show with yours truly is going to be coming up on Tuesday night, July 12th, 2016. A lot that we need to cover, man. A lot that we need to cover. I've been very silent about a lot of the things that has been going on this crazy week. But, of course, we're going to talk about the very latest from WWE as far as Raw goes. We're definitely going to talk about TNA Wrestling as they had the final deletion match with the Hardy Boys. I've yet to talk about that at great length. So make sure you tune in for that. We'll talk about the very latest in all things entertainment and beyond. We'll definitely take a look at those two shootings that went down. I've yet to speak on that. And I definitely have a lot of things to say. It's definitely a must listen that's going to be coming up this Tuesday night, July 12th, 2016, 10 p.m. Eastern on Spreaker.com live. So until next go around, wishing all of y'all to be safe. Most importantly, be kind to one another. See you next go round, everybody. Do take care. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.